You see, I'm glad that he stays away from these energy drinks. They're vile, demonic, and I have one right here. And I'd recommend anybody go to the Dollar Tree to get the cheap one. I'd recommend nobody drink them. It's terrible for you. We're here with Mason, and this is on the Pull Your Soul podcast. We're here to pull your soul with the truth, with a good time, and with love for yourself and the universe. He said that's some hippie shit. I don't care. Suck my dick, bro. We're here. This is he's a political commentator. He's a friend, and I think you're a friend, maybe.
We'll see after this.
We'll see after this. So we're here to talk about just politics, your channel. We got a lot of shit to talk about here.
Very excited.
Yeah. So how did you get your channel started? And talk about that.
So yeah, I run a channel. It's called The Right Side. We're just over about 900 subscribers now. I've been doing it for a little bit over a year. And it wasn't a choice that I kind of made, which is interesting. It kind of started with my dad. My dad was like, hey, you do a lot of, you talk a lot about politics, and I see a lot of people, your age online kind of posting videos, and he goes, I think you should too. Like, I don't think I'm that kind of a person. I really don't. And then I kind of push it off.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they talked about it at all. I don't know if it was like a planned thing, but then my mom, we're at the pool. And my mom says, I see a lot of young people talk about politics on the internet, doing videos. I think you should do it too. And I was like, that's what Dad said. And I was like, all right, but I don't have a name. See, I don't have a name. And so, it was around like mid-July of last year, and I was in the pool with my friends. And my buddy's now ex-girlfriend, I'm just like spitballing stuff with them. She goes, well, what about The Right Side?
Okay.
And I was like, ooh,
that's controversial because a lot of people deem that they are the right side.
I was like, that's too good of a name.
It's good
to pass up on. And then so as soon as I did that, I was like, all right,
fuck it.
I was like, let's do it.
So what was the first video you did that you like, I had to talk about this shit?
So my very first content video, because I did a welcome video, my first video. My very first content video was actually on the Chevron doctrine.
What was that?
It was about a Supreme Court case. I don't remember specifically who the parties were involved, but essentially it was overruling the Chevron doctrine. Was essentially basically when if in the federal kind of court system, if a law was too ambiguous and, something had to be done, what essentially the Chevron doctrine is that the courts had to defer to federal agencies to interpret the law. And so essentially what that means is they were kind of able to write their own regulations if the law was too ambiguous. And so that actually went for like upwards of like, I could be wrong, but like almost like 30, 40 years. And then so because Trump his first term put in a lot of good justices, and because of Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito on the bench with John Roberts, they overturned that.
Okay.
And so essentially what the court said is that for ambiguous laws, it is the job it's not the job of the courts to defer to the agencies. It's the job of the courts to say the Congress needs to do a better job here of writing the law. Because I think what really spurred the case was like a fisherman, and the fisherman had regulators on the thing. And so what the case of the question of the case was, who paid for the salary of the regulators? Was it the agency or was it the fisherman? But the law didn't say.
Okay.
And so essentially the courts deferred to, I forget which agency it was. I don't think it was OSHA, although it could be. They deferred to federal agencies. And the fisherman was like, that's BS, that's fucked up. And then so we're all in the Supreme Court, and then it overturned the Chevron doctrine. And essentially what it really is it was a really big hit to deep state. The deep state's ability kind of just like write their own laws and regulations wherever they kind of see fit. So I thought that was a really big ruling, and it happened recently at that time, and I felt really strongly about it, really passionate about it. And then that was my first video.
Yeah. I think that like whenever something's gonna go bad, it's usually due to a federal agency fucking up, or something. Like anything
Right.
can be like, most things are at fault, or just the federal government. I think local government is always like preferred
Mm.
in a lot of matters because they actually like are localized and represent their own people and stuff, and that's kind of the model I prefer when it comes to that.
Yeah, one of the biggest things people don't understand about politics is that the level of government that has the largest impact on your day-to-day life is your local government.
Yeah,
And as you scale up, it becomes more and more detached.
yeah,
And so like your mayor has more of a direct impact on you than your governor, and then the governor has more of a direct impact on you than the president.
yeah, yeah. Like I remember there was an interview with I think it was Killer Mike, some rapper. But he does a lot of activism for certain things, and he was
Sure.
just like, if you don't know who your representative is, like, don't talk to me about politics.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
do
much.
not, because it's like the president has impact, but like there's certain, the way the system is set up is that the president can't be too
Well, it's a federalist
impactful.
system, so they're trying to give as much. The whole system's the Constitution is constructed in a way that delegates power to the as local of a power as possible. And
Yes.
so, like, if there's any potholes in your town, or certain things regarding, like, in my town is a water tower issue,
Yeah.
we're not going to talk to Phil Murphy about that. We're going to talk to the mayor about that. We're going to talk to the local government about that. It's not Trump that repaints the water tower. It's the local government that repaints the water tower. And so it's not Trump that fixes potholes. It's your mayor and local government that fills potholes.
Yeah, and those are the, yeah, I totally agree with that. Speaking of local government, Zohran Mamdani is going to be a very influential person in New York's local government. You just did a video about him
I
and
did.
how people are being dismissive about him. And
Mm-hmm.
like, what is your thoughts on the right and also certain factions of the Democratic Party that don't align with him are just kind of shrugging him off, and they're just like, this dude's just a fucking dumbass. He's not going to be
Mm-hmm.
influential, right?
Right.
What do you think of that?
So I think that in any other, it's such a unique circumstance in New York right now, because if Zohran Mamdani was running against uh, a right-leaning party that had its shit together, and because right now the only reason why Zohran would win is because it's a split ticket right now, because you
Yeah.
have Eric Adams and Cuomo in there,
And Curtis Silla, but nobody talks about
right? But
him.
like if Adams or Cuomo endorse one of each other, Zoran would be politically a non-conversation, because there would be no way he would win. But because the two of them are splitting, it's an issue. I did a video on Zoran, and I essentially, the whole thing about Zoran is he's a socialist. He's far left. He's all those things, right?
Mhm.
But the problem is that, like, whenever you pop on like Fox News or whatever, they're like, "Oh, he's a socialist, and he's a retard and all that kind of stuff." And it's
Yeah.
not wrong, but the problem is it's very like wave your hand dismissy type. And the problem with that is the reason why progressives, and the reason why in a lot of ways Trump appealed to so many people, it was especially in 2016, 2015, is that he spoke to people's deepest concerns. So
Mhm.
if you want to connect with the young population, you don't talk to them about Social Security. You don't
Yeah.
talk to them about stocks. You're going to talk to them about housing. You're going to talk to them
Yeah.
about the economy, prices, inflation, things like that. And that's what Zoran recognized. It's very unaffordable in cities. And so,
Yeah.
people are like, hey, I can't afford rent. And Zoran's idea, which is incorrect, but the messaging is correct, is rent control. The rent control
Yeah.
policy is bad, but he's saying, I see that you're struggling with affordable housing, and I'm going to acknowledge that, and then here's my policy to fix that. Whereas, like, the Fox News types would have been like, rent control is stupid and he's bad. And then, so what does that do for voters?
Yeah, you have to offer an alternative, and also they had that one interview where they were all doing, I think it was the debate, and they were like, "What would your first trip be to
Oh,
another
yeah.
country?" And it's
Yeah.
like, who gives? First off, the question is the
He's a
dumbest
mayor.
question.
He's a mayor.
He's not a
Yeah.
senator or ambassador or something.
Right, no.
And then he's like, he says the best answer And everybody can agree this is the best answer. I would stay in New York
Yeah.
and focus on making New York better. And even though the ways that he will make New York better
Right, yeah.
are the dumbest fucking ideas I've ever heard in my life, you know, he gave a great answer there
Yeah, he's essentially a nationalist mayor
of that city.
Of that city. You know, he's saying that I'm not thinking about anyone else except for New York City citizens. And for a lot of people, that's all they want, especially now in today's climate. That's how Trump won. Trump was America first. He was, I'm not thinking about anything else except the interests of the American people because they come first. He was a nationalist. I'm a nationalist. And so when people are struggling, or they at least feel like they're struggling, because in politics, reality doesn't matter, perception does. If people feel like they're struggling, then the number one thing you do is say, okay, well, I'm prioritizing your interests first, and so I'm going to address that first. That's what Zohran did, and that's why he's appealing so much.
That this kind of reminds me of. Have you ever seen the Wire? The show The Wire. Mm-hmm. The third season is all about like a mayor getting elected, and it's all about him making promises that are like too substantial to fulfill and that he won't be able to do.
Sure.
But everybody likes it so much, and he ends up getting elected. And then when he gets elected, he's just dealing with the bullshit from the last term. And then he never gets anything done.
Okay.
And I think that that's where this is going to go. And I think that, anyways, anybody watching, watch The Wire. It's a great fucking show. But it's all about drugs and gangs and cops, but whatever. But yeah, I think that Zohran is just like the mayor of the third season of The Wire. I don't think it's going to go in. Because, like, anybody that goes into politics really like will get corrupted, and like there's a beast there, and I bet New York is probably the most corrupt city. I guess, I don't know.
I mean, Chicago and Baltimore is pretty bad.
Baltimore's
Los
terrible.
Angeles is really bad too.
Well, with the whole, what do you call it? There's the riots there all the time that are obviously set up by feds, and then there's the wildfires, which is the space lasers.
Oh, right.
I mean, anyways.
It's all fireworks.
Yeah. Like, well, with New York, we're going to go, like, he's just going to let everybody in and, you know, immigration. I think he's going to win. I just think he's going to win because it's too divided. I mean, unless, you know, what your theory is, which is a good theory, that everybody band together Avenger style and just endorse one person.
It's not even they don't even have to do it that much. Just one of them has to drop out and endorse the other because they're both splitting the ticket. Because if you combine the percentages for Cuomo and Adams, they would beat Zohran.
Well, I think they're all both old. Eric and Cuomo are both old and stupid. And
that's definitely fair. But if you don't want Zohran to win, then you need one of them.
Yeah. Have you seen the video with Cuomo and he's got like a turban on and he's talking to Muslims and shit? And he's like,
I don't believe so, but
he's like, I advocate for the Islamic people. I don't know, it's hilarious.
They have an Islamic town in Texas now. I don't know if they did anything about that. Did you see that?
What happened?
There was like an Islamic republic in Texas. Like,
yeah,
they established one.
I bet.
Then, like, people in Texas are like, "Fuck, what the fuck is this?" Rightly so too.
Well, Abbott's trying to, I think, like stop Sharia. Somebody's putting a legislation to stop Sharia law there, isn't it? Aren't they?
I think so because of how big of an issue it's becoming with like, because I think what it became was there was one community in Texas that became majority Muslim, and then they tried to like make like their own thing, and then like people in Texas were like, the fuck are you doing?
Same within Michigan. Michigan has like this one town.
Yeah.
Which is like
one of the reasons why Kamala didn't win Michigan.
Why do you think?
She was too pro-Israel.
Well, that's the thing that's gonna there's no way that the Democratic Party could go anti-Israel because people like to think that like liberals are all anti-Israel, but the reality is that the everyday person that votes Democrat is probably anti-Israel, right? If you talk to them, they'll they have a decent view on things.
I would say it drastically. I would say that depends on the age.
That is true. Every person that is Democrat and pro-Israel that I know is a boomer.
I feel like everyone that's Gen X and
above
is pro-Israel.
And what that also goes back to is that everybody in power in the Democratic Party is that age range, primarily. But also, they're like locally in Delaware, right? We have the first transgender senator. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Whatever. She gets money from APAC. So it's like you are automatically corrupted.
Not McBride.
McBride gets APAC money.
Oh, they're from
Delaware.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So APAC money goes there, right? And that's young. And I think that, I truly don't believe that part, because also if you look into the history of the relationship, it was the first, Israel's founded when a Democratic president was elected, and Truman approved it, Johnson approved it, JFK was iffy. Let's not talk about that. We know his stance on their having nuclear weapons.
We want this video to stay up. All right.
Yeah, we do want this video to stay up. So, and then the Republican Party is just, there's so much to say about that, but I think that, like, the base, I think it's just a generational thing. I mean, and this goes back to another question I want to ask you. I have a completely biased opinion towards a lot of foreign policy stuff just because of my ideology, because I'm not, like, a Republican, I'm libertarian. But with you have more of a intuitive, opinion on what is the difference between young conservatives and older conservatives right now in the Republican Party? What do you notice? Any certain differences?
There's definitely becoming like a certain a MAGA establishment within MAGA. The Fox News types are still very establishment.
Yeah.
And it's something that the younger conservatives are starting to kind of push back against. The younger conservatives are a lot more religious than their peer groups beforehand.
That is true.
I think that's really going to be interesting to kind of see. I think that they're a lot more socially conservative. I don't think that a lot of the older generations who are conservative see that yet, because of how degenerate the society has become. I'm a huge culture guy, and I think that culture really matters. And I think that because of the degeneracy that kind of exploded from the 90s, 2000s, 2010s to even today, feminism, all that kind of stuff, the liberal world order, so to speak, is, it's crushed not only just social life, but it's, all young men had like hold their tongues on everything, cancel culture, all that kind of stuff. And it's just an all-time rejection. My best buddy, not in the politics at all. Not in the politics at all. He only texted me on politics twice. The first time was when Trump got indicted. He kind of liked Trump, but he didn't, whatever. But so when Trump got indicted, he said that he would vote for him. Like, he has his vote. And when Trump got shot, he said he would, like, fight for him, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of a thing where it's like they call it like the manosphere, the bro guys.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so, like, they understand, of course, like, they appeal to younger conservatives a lot more. But I think that the biggest difference between the old and the young is that I think the younger conservatives are a lot more socially conservative than I think a lot of the older conservatives realize. And I think B, they're a lot more radical than the older conservatives are, because they're kind of living more of the day-to-day. They're the ones who can't buy houses. They're the ones that can't save. They're the ones that can't afford groceries. They're, it's the exact same thing that, it's kind of like class stuff, and because the older generations already kind of have their stuff, and a lot of them are trying to, like, help their kids kind of have a runway to kind of be successful. It's just hard to just get a start. And the number one thing that you don't want as a society is for young people to struggle to find a starting path. Because if they can't, then that anger, that resentment doesn't just go away. If they can't find, especially young men, the number one group in politics you do not want to trigger is young men.
That's like, you're right, because
they're military age, right? And so, like, 40-year-olds aren't the ones that throw revolutions.
No, like, if you look at Bolshevik Revolution.
Mhm.
If you look at the Zionist colonization of Israel, that was all young men.
Mhm.
That was all like 15 to 30-year-old men.
Yeah.
And look what happened. I mean, all of them won.
Right.
You
No,
know?
and so revolutions aren't thrown by middle-aged men. They're thrown by young men.
Unless you're swinging dick like George Washington, you know, unless you are like literally, yeah, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, they're the number one group that you don't want to like deny, societal access to.
Deny retard and faggot.
Yeah,
To
right.
Yes, yeah. Deny the use of that word
Right.
to them. That's and that's totally right, and I think that they're only becoming more radical. I mean, I take a lot of more moderate positions on stuff, as you know, but a lot of the people around me that 5 years ago are much more laid back politically. I've seen them grow up, and it's just the complete opposite. They are like hardcore on a lot of issues, and I've seen
I took that trajectory too.
yeah, like well, also on the left sphere of things, you are having more, not as much young men, of course, but a lot more radical communism is now popular because people didn't. Right now, what you have is people that have not lived through the time that the Soviet Union existed,
Oh, sure.
and their influence on geopolitics. So we don't have a frame of reference anymore for the damage that communism has brought to the country.
This is a great point.
And also, we have also seen the negative impacts of foreign policy on certain socialist and communist countries through proxies, and that is just not a good look. My thing is, if we're gonna be militant against communism, let's only do that domestically. But if it's another country, I don't care. Your country will go to hell. It'll burn, and you'll figure out how terrible it is to live under that ideology. But locally, there's in America, there's no room for that. But again, my parents or family, they were going. They would have drills where it would the nuclear drills because
my parents,
communism, and I mean some of it was propaganda, but
Cold War.
the Cold War, and some of it was propaganda, but some of it was valid. Like obviously they were a terrible tyrannical regime, but our generation has no frame of reference.
No, this is a great point
for that.
I think this is a great example of the fact that history is cyclical and it repeats, and it never repeats, but it rhymes, so to speak, is a saying. But it's true because what you see from the boomers is that they came after the Second World War, and so they never really saw war like that before. And so if you don't I think that the greatest radicalizer is experience, and if you don't see something that you really don't like, it doesn't really imprint in your brain. Like for me, I was born after 9/11, and so I'll never understand. I tell my parents all the time.
Too, yeah.
I say I'll never truly understand the weight of 9/11 like my parents do.
Yeah, like when I make 9/11 jokes around certain people that are older, like they don't laugh.
Right.
Then it's because they but when I make it around somebody that's
right,
fucking 20, they're just like, yeah, you are the funniest
fucker
ever, and it's insensitive, whatever. But you're right there because people thought that the world was under attack. People were putting saran wrap on their windows or something in case nuclear war was about to happen. People legitimately did not know what the fuck was happening, and then eventually they just thought all brown people were bad because of an attack,
right.
Which we're not getting into who actually did it. Again, we want to stay up, but that sort of fear, me and you have no frame of reference for at all.
No, yeah, and I think that the last major, even bigger than 9/11, I think that really happened to change politics forever for that generation was the end of the Cold War. Because I think in a sense, for a lot of people, especially boomers, it kind of cemented that okay, communism and evil has been defeated, liberalism has won, and now it's only a matter of time until everyone just adopts it and just accepts that we're right.
Yeah.
And so they just kind of like gave up a little bit in a sense. And
Yeah, the real battle is just beginning.
And they went on cruise control
Yeah.
for the rest of history, and they stopped trying to make things better for the next group, and they just kind of like, history's over. It's done. Our job's completed, and there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, in the 90s we had the best like time for America, probably for like art and culture. And was the economy good in the 90s? What do you think? I don't know. What do you know about that?
Clinton was the last one that balanced the budget, but I'm sure that the economy grew under Clinton. But I know that he went after regulations.
He was not. Any Democrat now would be appalled at shit Clinton was doing as president.
If a Clinton-esque Democrat ran today, they'd probably win.
What do you think? Why do you think that? What do you mean?
Because if a Clinton-esque Democrat ran, they'd win in the last.
Do you think moderate Democrats would win or more radical socialist Democrats would win? What do you think?
Moderate.
You think so?
100%. The only problem with the left is that the Republicans already kind of had their civil war, so to speak. They had in 2016. Both parties were supposed to have their civil war in 2016. You had Trump versus the establishment. You had Bernie versus the establishment. The only difference between the Republicans and Democrats was that Trump won his civil war, and so the populists beat the establishment in the Republican Party, but Democrats they shafted Bernie, and so the establishment still had a foothold in the party, and so I still don't think, especially since they got in, they nominated Biden and they nominated Kamala, they still haven't had their civil war yet. The establishment still has a strong hold in the party.
Yeah, I mean,
because Kamala's establishment all the way up and down.
Yeah, and I want to. So I have a communist friend who runs a communist streaming. It's anti-imperialist, but he's very left leaning, and he makes good films and documentaries. And he had an entire documentary series on Bernie, and how the Democratic Party completely fisted him, and that
if it was Bernie versus Trump in 2016. That's a race that's really. You think that the race was already close between him and Hillary? Put in Bernie, and he might have won.
That would have caused a civil war. And the real. No, I don't know. But I don't think it was that heated.
Yeah, populist against populist. That's crazy. That would have been very interesting to see.
Because Hillary was a fucking train wreck. She's unlikable, and she also was running a child sex trafficking ring, which so
allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Pizzagate is real. So that is true. That would have been the toughest race ever because, and also what you saw with that is the failure of that populist movement led to a sort of what would you call it, like a disorientation, like oh shit, like everything sucks and I wanted something to happen and I'm a Bernie dude. Everything fucking sucks. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna join the PSL. I'm going to join the RCA. I'm going to join the fucking Green Party.
Well, a lot of them,
and that's what they did.
Some of them voted for Trump in 2016 as a protest vote.
Yeah, there's that, and a lot of them are just Trump supporters now. Like, it took them a little while. I mean, even me, like, I was like a Bernie supporter, and then
You're a Bernie bro?
I was, yeah. And then I drifted to the libertarian side of things because it was a little moderate. And I know a lot of people like me who used to be a Bernie bro, or some of them, but and then it's like you look at what Bernie became, because a lot of communists, because I have a lot of friends that are communists, because if you go to a fucking college, of course you're gonna have a friend that's a fucking communist. So
it's a rite of passage.
Yes, so yeah, and a lot of them are just like they hate where he's gone now because he has done it in interviews, but he can't admit that he got fisted. He can't admit that he doesn't like certain people, or else they'll just run a bunch of articles against him.
Here's another really interesting thing that really kind of puts Bernie in a spot. The reason why the left won't win at least another major election is the woke stuff, the far left, kind of, at least socially, with like the trans and all that kind of stuff. The identity politics and the race stuff, people aren't really putting up with it anymore. And if you need any proof, just look at 2024.
Yeah.
The last election. That was a direct indictment of that. But the problem is that like that's a civil war the left still has to go through. They had to either purge the woke or just have the woke just take it over entirely.
Because there's people that
can't have this because there's a huge split right now, and they don't really know what to do. Like Fetterman is really interesting because I think if a Fetterman type candidate ran like federally for office for president, I think that he would do very well. The only problem is that he would get destroyed by the progressives.
Yeah, he would, and they're already running a lot of articles against. I mean, I think he's like interesting, but I don't really like him too much. But also like they are running against a bunch of articles right now about him being like fucking what are they saying? He has dementia and he's like 50 or something. Like they're just making up shit, and it's like it's a whole type of thing. I think there is a divide on the terms of people who are economically liberal, but like not socially conservative, but like less socially liberal than the other people. Do you know what I mean? Like they're 50% socially liberal and then 100% economically liberal. Does that make sense? And I think that like there is some Democrats who are like, I don't want kids to have transgender surgery.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of like that's what I think Bernie wants to be at. I think Bernie wants to be very far left in economics, so he can appeal to them that way. But the only problem is I think that he wants to be moderate socially, but he can't be.
I remember there's an interview where somebody says they're they them,
like,
and he gets it wrong. Do you think that
Bernie cares? Do you think Bernie cares? Do you think
if you're non-binary, he's
Bernie,
fucking
like,
80.
Keeps up with it? Like no, like Biden didn't. Like
Biden was like
Bernie
racist.
Bernie wants to be moderate. Bernie knows if he was moderate, then he would win. The only problem is that, especially if someone like AOC is running mate, he will get roasted by the progressives. And the worst thing about that is that it's not even like the progressives have enough to be their own thing. They have enough to be problematic and to make you lose, but they're not enough to make you win.
And to sway public opinion negatively. Because, like, I mean, similar to the Zohran Mom Donnie thing, it's like, well, the right is just swaying negative shit against him without an alternative, then that's... I think the progressives kind of know their alternative, and it's like, but it's... Sometimes they just go for the negative stuff.
If Zohran says nothing or limits what he says about social issues, about like being like any socially progressive things,
no, he'd be fucked. Yeah. If
he stays quiet on that, he will win. But if he starts saying like I want to trans kids, then he will lose. But he can be as progressive as he wants economically. People will vote for that.
He wants trans immigrant kids selling heroin on the subway, and
that would make him lose. That would make him lose.
Yeah,
that would make him lose.
Yeah.
But if he just stayed quiet on that kind of stuff and just didn't say anything, then he'd win.
Yeah, because like there's a lot of people who are like, wait, what? I'm gonna get arrested if I say faggot?
Right.
Like what? What are you talking about? Like what? You know, like I want free healthcare, but I want to be able to say faggot. You know what I mean? Like that's some Democrat voters, and
the most effective commercial from the Trump campaign was the Kamala is for he him and Trump is for you.
No, the Kamala's for they them.
For they them, yeah. And Trump is for you.
Yeah.
So he put on a spotlight the fact that Kamala was owning socially far left policies, and that was pretty much a death knell.
Yeah, there's so many reasons why she didn't win. I think one of the biggest. Not one of the biggest ones, but
I don't think she was likable.
What'd you say?
I don't think she was likable.
She wasn't likable, and also she wouldn't like try to go on.
She kind of looked like a clone of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And the way she spoke on a lot of things.
She was also a chameleon. She did like 8 different accents. It was hilarious. She was funny, like they're in a sad way where it's like, oh, you're like dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Like Trump is
Dude, Hillary Clinton went on the Breakfast Club and she was bragging about how she. Did you see that clip?
Which one?
She was on the Breakfast Club. I believe so, at least. I'm like 90% sure. And she brags about how she brings hot sauce everywhere. She has hot sauce in her purse all the time because she thought that would appeal to black voters.
That is hilarious. That's like the Kamala being like, "Who is your favorite rapper alive?" She said Tupac or something like that, and it's like, oh, like you're.
an idiot.
Yeah, I bet Trump would give a better answer to that. To that he would
Kid Rock.
Kid
Kid Rock.
yeah, or oh, Trump was also like
Baron,
perfect. Like,
Baron dropped some bars.
yeah, Baron is freestyling in the back seat of the Mercedes.
I like Eminem, but he's a little kooky.
Yeah. Have you seen the rap with Eminem where he's like rapping against Trump and it's I got a little coffee pot, and
No,
I'm gonna
that.
pour it on. I don't know,
Oh
like
my
it's like
God.
the dumbest shit ever. Well, Trump, even though like even though I don't think he's fulfilling a lot of his promises. I think he's doing all right now, but we can go there later. I think that his campaign was flawless, and I think that it was flawless, and especially with the rappers too. And I think that like there's like a video of some like lady talking about how like blacks used to be conservative and shit, and how now they're kind of going back to that, and that's okay. That's whatever. That's where they want to go. Conservativeness.
Like social conservative. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it is like kind of same with Latin Americans.
Some of the largest opposition to like LGBT stuff is black people. If you poll it.
That's interesting. That is very interesting.
It is staggering how much they disapprove of it.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's not really that surprising.
There's the what's the guy's name? Darnell Rawlings, where he's like
that sounds familiar.
He's a comedian and he does a thing on somewhere and he's like one time he's like black people are so homophobic that changing your diet can cause some alarm. And there's one where it's like if you go to eat with a black dude and you're just a guy and you're a friend of him and you order blue cheese on your burger, they'll call their friend and be like, yo, this dude changed, son. He's changed, yo. He's gay right now, or something like. There's a good bit about that, which is what I think that that is what it is, and that's how they're. I think that through certain cultural changes, that their culture shifted away from family values.
They had such a strong family,
but like and then now they want to go back to that. I think that's okay, and I think that some of that could be due to harsh drug policies of the 80s, or a certain CIA importing cocaine and selling it in the 80s. That could be one of the reasons, and certain damaging social policies. But I think that it would be beneficial for all communities to have family values and values centered around building wealth for their generation and the generations after them.
Yeah, could have said it better myself. I think that one of the best policies I think that could be implemented that would have an immediate impact now, but it would be a long-term policy, would be to reduce and eventually eliminate federal income tax for married families living together with if you have 4 or more kids, then no federal income tax. But for each kid you get is 25% less.
Yeah, I mean that's what we need.
They have to be married and living together.
Well, I mean you see other countries and their birth rates declining. Isn't Japan? Their birth rates are declining a lot.
Japan's not going to exist in like 30 years.
Yeah, well,
Japan, South Korea. South Korea's bad too. I think Europe probably has 50 years if they don't turn things around. And we're not much better. I had a video on this about the birth rates. We're not much better. I mean, we might be a little bit higher than most European countries, but we're still below 2, and we haven't been above water since 2008. And that was even that was a blip. And we've been on a steady decline since the 70s.
This is kind of what I tell people. I say that I don't think the world is a good place if everybody is an atheist single person that lives in an apartment by themselves with everything is provided to them by the government and they don't ever have kids. I don't think that's a world I want to live in. And I don't think that should be. I think that even if you have left economic policies or you have right economic policies, I think that either of those sides shouldn't want that. I think, and
I think the human condition needs struggle.
Don't even get me started on like the motivation and stuff. Like everything provided for you will never cause motivation, especially.
I don't think we're made to have that. Like I don't think we're like This is the first time in human history we have abundance. In human history, the first time we've ever had abundance like that.
Define that. I don't.
So
I know the word, but I don't know what you mean in relation to politics.
We have more people obese than starving.
Okay. Yeah.
We have an abundance problem, not a scarcity problem, and that's a really good problem to have. Because you'd rather have too much and too little, and a lot of that is because of capitalism, free market. By the way, I really don't like people calling it capitalism, because do you know where that comes from?
What's that?
Capitalism is a term coined by Karl Marx.
Yeah, like people use. I hate when people use that word as a negative.
It was supposed
word.
to be. It was supposed to be.
Shut the fuck up.
It was supposed to be a pejorative from Marx.
Oh God. Yeah.
Let's just. It was originally called the free market. Is what it it is.
That's what we should go back to.
And a lot of people just started calling it capitalism because of Marx.
Because of Das Kapital.
It's essentially
one of the books. Speaking of somebody provided everything to them, all he did is leech off of what was it, Engels or
Engels was his co-writer.
Yeah, but also like financially he would just leech.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think he was benefactor.
Yeah, like all the good sort of like a Thomas Sowell or a Booker Booker T. Washington, like a lot of them were like putting their foot in the ground, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
Elder too.
Yeah, like Booker T was like working as a child since like a fucking 5-year-old. Right. He was like working in the mines or somewhere, something that would be illegal now. He was working. Unless
they're in Arkansas.
What'd you say?
I said unless they're in Arkansas, maybe it would be still illegal.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was Arkansas.
Do they have bad child labor laws?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you can work at 14 if you give parents permission.
That's man. No, I think in Delaware you can still. I think it just depends on the location and the type of job market they have there. I think like
But I think that in Arkansas you can work at 14 if you get a parent's signature, but you can't work more than 20 hours a week.
Yeah, something like that. But I think that a lot of like with those sort of economic like writers that are like more free market oriented, that a lot of them like really worked hard in life, or like even on the libertarian side, like with Murray Rothbard, Milton Friedman, or like Mises, they were all people who were like, some of them were immigrants, or some of them fled the Nazi regime, or some of them were just like poor as shit. Right. I mean, so there's obviously a notable difference in the type of writers of certain economic models if you look through it in history.
Yeah, and I definitely agree to that. And it's the idea that is bad times create strong men create good times create weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men.
There's that cycle. Keeps on. And where are we at?
I definitely think we're at a good times create weak men, and I think that we're kind of shifting into that, and I think that the radicalization of the youth is going to create strong men. And I think that something's gonna have to break. I don't imagine this is the reason why like communists hate liberals more than they hate conservatives, because then this is a big reason why communists also hate like charity. It's the idea that in order for communists to have the revolution and to enact, a class of society, you need enough revolutionary spirit and fervor. So you need things to kind of build up with like resentment and like, I'm tired of this. I'm through with this, and kind of like radicalizing kind of like resentment.
Yes.
They need to build that up. Whereas liberals are kind of like, all right, let's vent a little bit. All right, things are getting bad. Let's kind of calm everyone down.
Let's take a small, moderate approach to things that isn't going to destroy the system.
Essentially, pretty much. And then communists are like, fucking stop. You're ruining all the momentum that we're doing. We're trying to build up all this resentment, and you're here, doing micro things that are like venting the public. And the public is kind of like, all right, it's a little bit better. It's still bad, but you know what? I can do it. This is why communists don't like charity. Is because if someone else other than the state is giving them, like, they need people in need to fuel the revolution. And so if someone's giving charity, then they're kind of keeping kind of flares down a little bit.
They hate, like, all the communists I know hate Bill Clinton. Like, they hate neoliberalism. They fucking hate that shit with a passion.
Because it's a moderate ideology.
Yeah, and I remember, like, there's a class I was taking that we talked about it a little bit. It was it was comparing Marxism and neoliberalism, just like as a one part of the class.
Sure.
And everybody was just shitting on neoliberalism. Like, what? You expect people to like work for their own stuff, and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I do. I mean, even though there's some like economically disfavorable type of stuff in it,
I think Clinton destroyed the economic base.
you know, but you know, and I don't like it, but it's certainly better than Marxism. You know, so I don't know, but you're right. They need that sort of envy and stuff, and I think that with the
well, I don't think they need envy.
You have a good quote. I think I wrote it down. You said that the left's oil is envy. You said that in a video, and I think that is right. And the right's oil is oil. Is tradition or something like that. I couldn't think of a better comparison, but the oil is going back to when once was, but not really, because like you know what I mean, like in a way, metaphorically. But but speak on that quote you said in that video.
So
Paraphrased,
it's essentially the same message, which is that the left operates on envy, especially the far left operates on envy. It is the have versus the have-nots, so to speak, and it's a class warfare view of the world. It's that you have nothing because someone else pretty much took it from you, and if you are talking to like poor youth, and you point at Jeff Bezos, for example, and it's like, you can't buy a house because he has $1 bajillion. It's like, well, yeah, I can certainly see how that argument can be made. If you think about it for 5 seconds, it's quickly not the reason. But if you just tell someone that that's the reason why, and they don't really think too much of it, they're like, well, that makes sense. He has $1 million and I don't. And that's why I'm poor. And he, if I had $1 million, I wouldn't be poor anymore. And look how much money he has.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of a simplistic worldview. But I would say that the right operates. Their oil would probably just be an understanding of fundamental human nature. And I think that one analogy I came up with for the political ideologies is that communists kind of envision human nature as completely optional and completely rewritable. It's almost like code. Like you can just rewire.
Reset.
Liberals kind of take it as like a suggestion. Like, people are selfish, but like we can kind of like beat them into not being selfish. Like we can kind of get around that. Whereas conservatives see human nature and like, okay, these are the laws of social engagement. These are things that do not change, at least not short term, because things can change over long, like centuries of time. But like, for what is politically useful, human nature is law. It's not a rule because rules have exceptions. It's a law. And conservatives operate within that framework, which is there are just certain things about human nature that are just what they are. And it's our job to devise a system that incentivizes the best of that, but also make sure that the worst of that doesn't become a problem. And that's why you see, that's why I don't think libertarianism is inherently right-wing, because they kind of, I think that libertarianism is much more idealistic than conservatism is, especially socially. I think that economically, especially like free trade and stuff, it's really devastating, especially coupled with like the left on economics makes no sense, because especially like the Clinton types, because they're the first, they want to raise the minimum wage, they want to make business harder with regulations, and then they want to open economic borders.
Somebody I was talking to that was like, they said money sitting in bank accounts causes inflation.
What?
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, it's the printing of money that causes inflation.
Banks don't print money.
And raising the minimum wage would cause inflation. And so, yeah, I mean, they're ideal. I mean, there's one thing, you're talking about the Mises Caucus and shit. But one thing you said once when we were hanging out, I think, were you watching the draft?
I think so. NFL.
Yeah, and we were watching the draft, and then you brought up one point, you're like, you cannot have a
I remember this.
country with a free market because or if you have a free market, then you will automatically have exploitation of labor from another country, or
Yeah,
something like that. And
right.
then, but so tariffs, while domestically you can have a free market, you can't have an international free market
Correct.
because that would cause
Yeah,
exploitation
that's
of
right.
labor internally and
So
externally.
yeah, essentially having a high standard of living comes with a cost,
Yeah.
and the cost is tariffs. Because you can't pay people a minimum wage of $30 an hour and expect companies to pay that unless they have another avenue. So like essentially what happened with NAFTA. NAFTA is a great example of this.
North American Free Trade Agreement.
Yes. And so essentially what happened there was that you want to have regulations to make sure that workers are treated good, and then you want to have a high minimum wage so that you can at least guarantee that people who are employed are at least making money. But then you want to open up the economic borders, which essentially just means that why would you employ someone in America for $15 who has a union, who has all these health benefits and protections, when you could just manufacture shit in India and China for a tenth of the cost?
Or give them the visa that makes it so that you don't have to pay as much
H-1B,
taxes.
right.
So explain that and why there is a division in the right with that.
So essentially, what happened is that the tech bros are kind of very much the Clinton-esque. Um, uh, they're liberals because I think that Bill Clinton is still very much the hallmark of what classical, I guess not classical liberalism, because classical liberalism is kind of like libertarianism,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
like I guess mainstream liberalism is still like Bill Clinton. Um, so I think that a lot of liberals are Clinton liberals. And so they want to have free trade. They want to have, kind of a graph go up, GDP go up sort of a mentality. And so they kind of chase that. And what that comes to a cost for is the country. Because you can't have a high standard of living. You cannot have high wages. You cannot have good benefits. You cannot have all of these things that we all want while also having an economically open system where companies are like, why the fuck would I pay a guy in Iowa $15 an hour? I can just pay Feng Wang in China like $1 a day.
So explain the H-1B visa and how that affects the pay of the. Do the companies that employ somebody that had an H-1B visa, do they does that company pay less in taxes?
So essentially, they have little to no protection, the workers. So they can kind of be dropped like a bad habit. That's the kind of negative of the immigrants. They can pay not super duper cheap, but relatively cheap for American standards. It's still probably more than they would get. Most of them are like Indians and stuff like that. The money is more than they would make in India.
Yes.
But it's still a lot less than you would pay a college grad in the United States. Especially for like coding and stuff like that. So that's what that's what people who sell the H-1B visa kind of sell it as. It's a thing where it's like, okay, it's for the 1% niche employees in the market that we kind of just like pluck and that one, and that one.
Yeah.
But what it quickly became was just a substitute for these college graduates who were told their entire lives they needed to go to college to be, successful and that kind of stuff. It was a kind of the liberal world order who kind of pushed everyone into the millennials and now Gen Z, who were lied to.
Yeah.
And so you graduate from college and you have a degree in computer science, and you're like, I need like at least $45,000 a year, $50,000
to be able to pay for rent and the
and my loan.
Yeah.
And an Indian will come and be like, I could do it for 25. I could do it for 30.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like, okay. And the best thing about that is that the migrants on the H-1B visas, they do not have any protections like American workers do. They can be dropped and sent back at any time. So they are completely at will to the employers in ways that other workers are not. And so that's why companies love the H-1B visa. Essentially, what the H-1B visa debate comes down to is whether you prioritize the economy or you prioritize the country. I did a whole video on this. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is on the thumbnail. Essentially, what the thing comes down to is, in order to have nice things, Thomas Sowell said there's no solutions, there's trade-offs. And so in order to have nice things, you need to kind of protect your industries. You need to protect your domestic workforce. And so we need to be hiring our native born coders.
Yeah.
But what the right does, is separate from the left, is the left would mandate them to hire them. Where the right is saying restrict the labor force and make them have to pay American workers. How do you do that? You got to severely limit these visa programs right off the bat. And 2, you have to close the borders.
Yeah.
And so this is actually one of the biggest things that I do not like that Trump is doing. Trump ran on deportations, widespread, get them all out. I love that. But then he's saying like, well, maybe for farm workers and hotel workers, maybe they can stay. It's like, no, bro, get them out.
Yeah, that's why like I don't really like. I think a lot of people that are
he's
Alex
letting down his base,
fighting against the establishment, and it's like in a way I don't think it's really possible to be a president without being of the establishment. You know, and I think that like to some points I do like Trump better than other people, but I just don't really think he is like gonna change much, you know?
Yeah, I think,
in my opinion,
I did a video on
the
whole Trump thing, and Trump is really close to ruining everything. And that sounds dramatic, but the reason why I say it is because a lot of people, especially 2016, a little bit less in 2020, but a lot of people in 2024, they voted for Trump because they're like, okay, a lot of the people, what was it? Obama, you had Bush, you have Clinton, you had Reagan. Reagan's not so much because he's a little bit more establishment or less establishment. We had all these politicians and they did nothing. Everything is just the same. Trump comes in 2016. He's a bull in a china shop. And that's why a lot of people voted for Trump in 2016 because he was like, okay, maybe he's different. So when he voted for Trump in 2016, he got constantly held back by his own administration, his own cabinet officials.
Yep.
They fucked him 9 ways to Sunday. 2020 happens. 2024, you have the indictments happen. You have the Butler happen. And then so in this wave, you see an unreal amount of popularity for Donald Trump because people are like, okay, he has not only the intention of changing things, but he has an incentive to change things. He nearly got his head blown off. He almost got JFK'd. Okay, he's gonna want to find out what happened there. He promised the Epstein files. He has no more terms left. So he, essentially it's kind of like playing with house money. I'm on my way out. Let's fuck shit up. And so a lot of people are like, this is what's going to be different. And that's why a lot of people voted for Trump in 2024. And so when you go back on immigration, when you have the Epstein thing that fucks up, it's less about, like, especially with the Epstein thing, it's less about the specific names on the list. Because everyone knows who's on the list.
Everybody knows it's the Bill Clinton and...
If you ask if they're on the list, the answer is yes. So it's less of who is on the list, and it's more about the promised transparency.
That is not there. I mean, even with the JFK stuff, he did release the files, and they did have some spicy stuff in them, but there's still more he hasn't released. Yeah, and also there's redactions in all of them. Yeah. So... And
he who are they protecting? Who would be impacted by the release of JFK files who's still alive? It happened in the 60s, bro.
Kissinger's dead. Nixon's dead.
Everyone's
Johnson's
dead,
dead. It's like the Irishman scene. There's a scene at the end of the Irishman where he's like 90 and he's getting De Niro's getting talked to by the FBI, and they're like, everyone's dead. Who are you protecting? And he's like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, fuck off. And he's in a funeral home.
Yeah, and so
a retirement home. Yeah.
You have all these things, and it's not the transparency that was promised. And now he's reneging on the deportations. The whole reason really why you passed the beautiful bill is to deport people. It was the deportation bill. And now he's saying, let's give some credence to farm workers and hospitality. It's like, what are you doing, bro? This is what drives people to be more radical. If you don't want people to become radical, you gotta feed them something. Right now, you're lying to them, which is making them... Because the unique thing for Trump is that if someone believes that you are the change agent, and you take that and you are him now, right? If you break that promise, people, if you think that they're red pilled now, they're going to become black pilled because they put all their faith in you. You were the last person that they trusted in politics. And if you do not keep that promise, then people are going to be black pilled. They're not going to trust anyone. And that's a very dangerous society for politicians and for governments to live in.
It's like the nothing ever happens meme. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's like, not like, I mean, it's kind of true. And I have this one, a question here. It's like, right now we're getting the anti-Semitism laws. We're getting the sloppily done deportations.
Yeah.
Money to both Ukraine and Israel, because he just started giving money back to Ukraine still. And no transparency in regard to Epstein and JFK. Like, I mean, I think that, like, one of the things that people were voting for when it comes to Trump was no money to Ukraine. I think that at least people were like, okay, maybe we can still give money to Israel, which I don't agree with, but at least we won't give money to Ukraine, right? Well, now we're still giving money.
Did you see the deal that he signed, though?
What did he do?
So I actually read into this because I was like, there's no way he did it. Like, he has to know his base. There's no way. So what he agreed to was, I at least know this is true. He met with the head of NATO in the White House. And what he basically agreed to was, we're selling arms to France and Germany, who are going to distribute the weapons to Ukraine. And if you ask me, I'm okay with that. I don't like foreign aid is about favors. I'm not doing any more favors. If Ukraine was to buy weapons from us, they're more than that. Like, we're a market, you know. I don't care about selling weapons. I don't want to give charity anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we should give. Yeah, I mean, if it's selling and it's a company that's American, whatever. But I still think, I don't want to
send money there.
That's one thing that was out of hand with Biden.
If you're selling weapons, you're not really giving funding. If you're selling it.
Well, I mean, that's one thing with Israel I can never get behind, because he sold like 1/8 of some weapon stockpile that we had. He gave it to them.
I think so.
And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, like with the Israel, I don't even want to go. Let's just go into it. Fuck it. Epstein. There's so much connections there. There's so much connections to certain things. And, I mean, even with Hollywood, I've gone into this so far. The victims have been, like, tortured, basically, like, by the media, by people there. Like, one of this story that I found I with an interview with the first ever victim that reported him in 95. The FBI didn't do anything about it.
I guess they died by suicide.
No, that was the other. That was one of the later ones. With the first one is Maria Farmer, and when the stuff started coming out, I think it was like 2018, 2019, about it.
I think he was prosecuted under Trump.
Yeah, 2018, 2019. Basically, she was starting to get a hella interviews, and Jada Pinkett Smith was like had some show at the time, or was gonna interview her, and then they did the initial call to set up the interview. And in the interview, she was like bringing up one of the bodyguards that was particularly brutal to her during her captivity with Epstein. Then eventually she realizes she doesn't get a call back. And then she found out that bodyguard's now Will Smith's bodyguard. And it's like the connections are insane there. And then you talk about the connections with Israel, that are just obviously there. I mean, everybody knows that Ghislaine Maxwell's father was in the Mossad, but then you kind of go into Lex Wexner and the Mega Group. I'd recommend everybody just look into Whitney Webb and her journalism
I've heard of her.
And
I watched her video or watch her stuff on Vance.
Yeah, we'll get into Vance later if we, have time. But I just think that everybody should just look into who was Epstein rolling around with, and look in his financial crimes as well, because he got fired from a job for financial crimes, and then eventually he starts to help arms trafficking with Anand Khashoggi and Douglas Leese, people in Saudi Arabia and people, in the UK, and eventually, he was close with one of the former prime ministers of Israel, and it's like there's so much that should be looked into. And I just think it's not even a question anymore. Like, why don't they release them? Why don't they release him? It's because the whole system would just fall down. It would crumble like a deck of cards, and I think that there's no. This is the JFK of our time.
Mm.
Everybody, I got into this kind of like sphere of conspiracy and deceit and politics because my family has a shrine of JFK books and memorabilia in my pop-up's home who recently passed away. So I got into it because of that, and that was their big thing that got them to realize the government is a pile of shit and everybody's corrupt. This is that for this generation, and we will never know, and we probably won't know until everybody's dead. But as we see with JFK, maybe not, because everybody's dead and we still fucking don't know.
Have you heard what Nixon said about was the JFK assassination?
What do you say?
They said he was being interviewed and he was asked about I think it was in 1960, the first time that he was on the ballot against JFK, and they said they asked him it was like years later after he was assassinated, and they asked him and they said why didn't you beat or like JFK, like that kind of a question, and he goes, because I wasn't willing to like have him killed essentially. And so it was like a not so subtle dig at LBJ.
Yeah.
As to like why he wasn't the president first. Or
yeah.
President before JFK, because I wasn't willing to kill him.
Nixon, I have mixed opinions on him. I have a lot of things I don't. Yeah, I don't like that. But there's there's other things I like about him. But I just think that when it comes to that era, Johnson was just worse. He was just substantially worse. He got us into Vietnam. Civil Rights Act was good, but there's a lot, and obviously
Nixon didn't do that. Are you talking about LBJ?
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, I'm talking about Johnson. Yeah, he did that, and he got us into Vietnam. I just think he was like much more. I think that JFK was like one of the best presidents, and I think that well, there's some economics of it is great. Like he still was he was not like a localist type of. He was not libertarian like at all, really, kind of. But I prefer a lot of the stuff he was gonna do, and he was trying to get Israel to safely develop nuclear weapons as opposed to like, let's just let them do their own thing. And it's like there's a lot of reasons why I think he was killed, but and then you look into the foreign policy, he was trying to actually have peace with the Soviets, and it's like there's so many reasons that he was killed. But anyways, so what do you think of them not being transparent with Epstein stuff? Do you think it's just we're never gonna know?
I think that I always go off of a basic rule of expect nothing but hope for everything. Expect the worst, hope for the best. And so this is again one of the reasons why it's so dangerous right now for Trump. If you have somebody who believing in you, you have to give them something.
Yeah.
You can't, like, trust and faith is so valuable that once someone gives you their full faith and their full trust and you break that is like soul crushing. And like it's 10 times harder to get it back than it is to initially earn it. And if Trump has been doing a lot of very good things. I did a report card for him when the first 100 days. I think they gave him like an A minus. I think he handled Iran about as well as he could have. So I think if he got involved with Iran fully, he would have become like a D almost immediately.
Yeah, it would have been terrible.
I think I would have knocked him down a letter grade if he got into a direct conflict with Iran. What did you give him
on that report card?
I think it was an A minus if I remember correctly. I think the only reason why it wasn't like higher, I think it was either B plus or A minus, was contingent on the tariffs working out. The economy kind of purring a little bit more, but then also a lot of the foreign policy stuff, a lot of the and the Epstein JFK stuff. I was kind of like holding him back on a little bit there. And all around, his cabinet has been Marco Rubio has been good. Pam Bondi is just been hot and cold. She's going after like pedophiles, and that's great. and she's going after she's doing smaller immigrant raid, and I'm like, that's cool, but then she's not going after the deep state, and I'm like, what is going on? If any political administration had a reason to go after people, it's the Trump administration right now, because he was shot at, he was indicted, he got spied on. There are so many things that can be investigated. And this is why I think this Congress and Pam Bondi is so just inept right now. Because where are the hearings? I know we do not have a big majority, especially in the House. But you got to do something. If you can't pass legislation, you have committees, okay? Let's start these hearings. Let's start investigating. Let's start subpoenaing people. Let's get this ball rolling.
I think maybe they're not doing that because they think that if they did that, they'll have the same energy that Trump had when he was being prosecuted, which I don't really think is valid because
he's already been investigated. It's the right broadly is operates on a fear of, well, what did they do to us? And my answer to that is, well, they did, or they would anyway. Well, we won't investigate Biden because we don't want Trump to be investigated. Well, they investigated Trump anyway. I don't want to go after my political opponents because they might go after our political opponents. Well, guess what? They did it anyway. Okay? So essentially what the right is doing is that this is why I don't like libertarianism more broadly. Politics is about power. Government is a big gun, essentially. And whoever, we can imagine things to not be like that. But at the end of the day, if you are in government and you hold power, you have the political gun, so to speak. So you're the one who gets to make the calls in a lot of things.
Yeah.
If you put that gun on the table and say, I'm not going to go for it because I wouldn't want you to put it on me. And you say, fuck that. And you pick up the gun and shoot me. Look, who looks like the idiot there?
Well, we have all these, and I don't know how I feel about this because I haven't said it yet, but certain localizations they're saying, local candidates are saying,
right,
I'm going to Trump-proof my city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I like the idea of certain local municipalities being able to vote that the federal government can't overreach them, but it's maybe that's their way of there's gonna be a conflict there, maybe the National Guard goes against the police and stuff, and it's I think eventually if they don't like stuff enough, they'll kind of bounce back on the right the same way that they did being in power.
A lot of voters aren't very politically aware, but what they do have is a unique sense for bullshit.
Yeah.
And so what you need to do in politics is be straight and clear. What you can't do is go with policy. You gotta commit. It's either you do something or you do nothing.
Yeah.
Trump did not go after the rioters after the Floyd protests. And did they give the January 6th the same grace?
No,
absolutely not.
No, that's one thing I can't get behind. I understand that police can be harsh on some people sometimes, and some of that can be due to race, but that does not give you the right to destroy thousands of small businesses. And those people that do that, let's say I own a liquor store, right? If somebody comes into let's say if there's a protest that supports some ideology I agree with,
sure,
that I vehemently agree with, whatever that ideology may be.
Sure.
If somebody's protesting that, and then it starts into a riot, and I own a liquor store,
yep,
if even people that I agree with barge into my store to steal stuff and loot, I'm shooting them in the fucking face. I will shoot them point blank right at the fucking face. I don't care what they're rioting for. I don't care if it's something I agree with. I'm going to shoot you in the fucking face.
And a lot of people during the protests were even putting on their plywood, we support BLM, don't riot, don't loot us, we support you. whatever, and they try to be like one of them, and for a lot of people it still didn't work.
Jesus, that's fucking. It's sure, yeah. Those people all like I can't ever get behind that. And then there's the pile of bricks thing, which I haven't looked into hard enough, but there's obviously agitators and groups and paid protesters that exist. If you look, like, there's receipts, there's Indeed job postings.
Oh yeah.
Of like, do you want to be an activist? Do you want
Tim Pool talks a lot about Occupy Wall Street and how a lot of people were there because they were paid to, and they had no idea why the fuck they were there, and they were just kind of there. And so he'd like talk to them like, hey, why are you here? And they go, I don't like capitalism. And he was like, oh, okay. So like you're not really here. You're just here.
That's what I see in a lot of like college, like of the camp, like in Temple or something.
Yeah.
Is like people just don't know the answer to like the questions and shit. And like it like one time.
Well, yeah, it's like basic foundational. Like, why are you here? And they're like, I don't like Israel. And they're like, okay, can you expand upon that? And they're like, no.
Well, I'm a good example of that because I did actually go to an anti-Israel protest, the one in the beginning of last year on campus, and I got interviewed for it, and I was in the paper for it, and I was just walking past it on the way back after class, and then somebody interviewed me and put a camera up to me like it was Forrest Gump, and I was like, blah 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 blah, good answer, and then I left. I was there for literally 5 minutes, and I got the first interview on the fucking article. I'm awesome.
But like the same thing goes for like Palestine too, though. Like if you go to a pro-Israel thing and you ask someone like, why are you here? And they say, I'm just anti-Palestine, and you're like, okay, why? And they're like, because I like Israel. And it's like, all right, you're just fucking paid to be here.
There's that, and like I've heard shit about like those like anti-Israel, like I mean anti like let's just say Palestinian protests. Right. Let's just say that whatever it is, if it's pro or anti, and like some of like Zionists would be like I remember one time, or I was hearing it from the perspective of Zionists that went, and they were like, I went and somebody said my father was killed due to a bomb or something like that, and he was just a normal civilian, and the Zionist was like, I don't care that your dad died.
So you heard like the most charitable perspective of it.
Yeah, and it's like I truly believe that if you're on the side of Israel, you are like on the side of evil, in my opinion.
That's a rough, like, I don't care your father. That's rough.
Palestinians, I've never heard, and I've heard like one, but I've never heard an anti-Semitic reason for not supporting Israel. I've never heard any. I've only heard like people joke about it online and be like, yeah, fuck, blah, 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 some anti-Semitic joke or something. But most of them are just like, I don't want my money going to a country that indiscriminately bombs children and kills them as they go to get aid. Like most of them have the best answer for stuff. Sometimes there is examples and evidence that some of them are paid agitators and some of them come from communist groups. That is true. But I truly believe that is an issue that the younger people of America all agree on, right, left. Most of them are just like, it's not even what do you call it?
Anti-Semitic?
No, the what do you call it? Non-interventionism. Like a lot of people that support Palestine are like, I want to give all the money to Ukraine. A lot of them, lot of them, and I don't agree with that. But I think that both right and left just don't want to give money to Israel.
I do think that's a generational thing. I also think that it's a political awareness thing. I don't think that just many people are aware of what exactly is happening. Regarding Israel, I have large scale apathy. I don't like funding Middle Eastern conflicts. I think that we're not very good at that, and I think that we have 30 years of history to go off of as to why we're not good at Middle Eastern playing in the sandbox. So I think that the best thing to do is just stay out. But if Israel wants to buy weapons from us, I have no problem selling them.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, to my knowledge, I'm almost certain that Israel has a governmental budget surplus, and we're still giving them aid.
Well, they also have their first prime minister was a self-described, I think they called it the Zionist left. Like, he was a socialist. Like, so they're right now they do have a sort of right-wing government, but they are comparably to us a very socialist economically, government. Like, there is, like, I think there's a number like 800,000 of them are, like, unemployed and living for free, basically. Some of them, and I've somebody fact check that watching, but there is a exorbitant amount of social services there that we don't have,
right.
and due to our military aid. But so what is the future for your channel that you could discuss before we wrap this up? Like, what type of videos or plans you have going on for your channel that you could talk about?
I'm actually going to do another political compass video to kind of see and compare how much I've changed, because that was one of the first videos that I did.
Yeah.
In the channel was a political compass video, because I thought, if I'm going to be a political channel, it's good to give people an idea of where I am. So I'm going to be doing another one of those, and so that'd be very interesting, and I can't wait. I have a great editor; he's fantastic. He's dramatically increased the quality of my content, and so that's really cool. That's really nice. And just for the time being, the channel's gonna take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a vacation. We'll be back in August, and definitely gonna look forward to making that political compass video. And I did just release a Zohran video on that, and can't wait to help spread this one around too.
That was great. Yeah, no, this is a great, episode, and I really enjoyed talking to you, and I definitely recommend people to check out his videos, even if you might disagree with some of his opinions. He does have some sort of just normal kind of opinions on stuff, but thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man.
All right. This is great. Everybody, like, share, comment, subscribe, and have a good one.